What if I told you that 8K TVs were never meant to improve your viewing experience, just to sell you something you didn't need? In this video, I'm going to show you how one of the most hyped tech revolutions turned into a multi-billion-dollar joke. If you've ever looked at one of those massive screens and thought, wow, that's sharp, you're going to want to see what's really behind those 33 million pixels. Stick around, because the truth is even more blurry than the screen at a distance. Listen closely, because I guarantee you're not going to guess the year the first 8K TV was introduced. Go ahead, take a wild guess. You ready? No, you're not. It was 2012. Yeah, over a decade ago, Sharp unveiled the first ever 8K panel. But here's the catch. The world wasn't ready for it, not even close. See, this wasn't really about selling a groundbreaking product. It was about grabbing headlines. It was classic tech theater. The kind of move where the product itself is just a decoy, a shiny prop meant to scream innovation, while the real goal is attention. Same playbook Ryanair used when they floated the idea of making passengers stand during flights. Or when Amazon teased drone deliveries that never really took off. It doesn't matter if it happens, because every blog, news site, and Tech Bro podcast will talk about it. Boom, free marketing. Sharp got what it wanted, buzz. And suddenly, their name was floating around next to cutting-edge technology. Never mind that no one had the internet speed, content, or eyesight to enjoy 8K. That didn't matter. What mattered was that Sharp now meant the future. And the future, my friend, is exactly what every tech company wants to sell you, even if it doesn't exist yet. Fast forward to 2018. The media's in love again. The first 8K TVs are finally here, they say. And El Mundo, one of the big Spanish outlets, breaks it down. 8K means twice the resolution of 4K. No, that's wrong. It's actually 4 times the resolution. But hey, who's checking, right? Let me drop a quick spoiler for you. The reason 8K failed? It wasn't because people didn't want better TVs. It's because we reached the point where better stopped making a difference. You know how on a 4K screen, you get 4 times the pixels of Full HD? Well, on 8K, you get 16. That's 33 million pixels. Sounds impressive, but here's the twist. Our human eyeballs, those little jelly orbs in our heads, can't even tell the difference unless the screen is massive and your face is basically inches from it. It's like buying a Ferrari just to drive in a school zone. And the tech companies knew it. Deep down they knew, but they were chasing something else. Let's pause for a second and ask the obvious. Why push something nobody needs? Because in tech, the game isn't just about solving problems, it's about creating new ones. Problems you didn't know you had. That's how we got phones that fold, fridges with Wi-Fi, and yes, televisions so sharp they could probably spot a mosquito yawning in the background of a scene. The goal? Keep us chasing upgrades. Keep us wanting. And the 8K pitch? Oh, it was juicy. Imagine colors that pop like fireworks. Textures so crisp you could feel them. Movie nights so immersive you'd think you were inside the film. They made it sound like 4K was a blurry mess and 8K was the final form of vision itself. A technological nirvana. LG told us in 2019 that 8K would redefine storytelling, that you'd see emotions better, that your TV would disappear and you'd be left floating in pure cinematic bliss. But guess what happened when people went looking for those magical machines in 2025? Crickets. If you hop over to LG's website right now and type in 8K, you won't find a glowing tribute to the future. You'll find a digital graveyard. Most of the 8K models they once bragged about, discontinued, out of production, ghosted. And the one model that is still up, it's basically the same TV they released 5 years ago, just with a slightly shinier frame and a new model number slapped on the box. Meanwhile, back in the real world, people still aren't buying. And it's not just because of the price. Although, yes, let's talk about the price. Because unless you've recently inherited an oil field or won the lottery, chances are you're not casually tossing $4,000 at a screen that looks almost the same as your current one. And this is where it gets good. Even the cheap 8K TVs aren't actually cheap. They're just marked down from absurd to still totally unnecessary. And here's the paradox. For prices to go down, more people have to buy. But if the price stays too high, nobody does. It's a loop. Like trying to get your first job, but every job requires experience. Welcome to the catch-22 of tech marketing. But the real kicker? Power consumption. Every 8K TV on the market has a giant red flag glued to it, an energy efficiency rating of G. That's as bad as it gets. One of these screens can chug electricity like it's prepping for a blackout party. To put it in perspective, run your 8K TV for 4 hours and it'll use more electricity than your fridge does in an entire day. And your fridge, by the way, is busy actually keeping food from rotting. Your TV is just showing you reruns of The Office in unnecessarily sharp detail.
No! God, please, no! No!
Things got so bad that in late 2022, the EU basically said, we might just ban these things altogether. New energy rules were about to drop in March 2023 that would have made it nearly impossible for 8K TVs to legally be sold in Europe. The tech giants panicked. You think Samsung, LG, and Sony were going to roll over and take that? Nope. Out came the lawyers, the lobbyists, the political pressure. Suddenly, behind closed doors, it wasn't about pixels, it was about profits. And right before the deadline, the EU caved. Okay, fine, they said. You can sell your 8K TVs, but only if Eco Mode is turned on by default. Eco Mode. Let that sink in. Imagine buying a Ferrari and being told it only drives in economy mode, unless you dig into the menus, change a bunch of settings, and accept a warning message. That's 8K in 2023. And even then, sales didn't move. Because deep down, the average buyer felt it. Something about all this didn't add up. So they tried again. One last swing. The Olympics. The 2020 Tokyo Olympics became the perfect excuse to pump 8K back into the spotlight. This is it, they said. The moment 8K finally shines. The marketing engines roared back to life. Sony unveiled enormous, spaceship-like models that looked like props from Interstellar. LG wrapped their TVs in glowing buzzwords like quantum, realism, and ultrafusion, whatever that means. Samsung threw in a dozen models, each claiming to be smarter, sharper, and more revolutionary than the last. Even Rakuten jumped in, announcing a brand new 8K streaming platform. And what happened? It never launched. The whole thing fizzled out like a birthday candle in the rain. Because here's the truth. The tech was ready, but the content wasn't. Not even close. And this, right here, is where the whole 8K dream really unravels. Because what's the point of owning a supercar if there's no road to drive it on? Alright, here's where everything starts to fall apart. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you ignored the price, that you didn't care about the ridiculous energy bills, or the fact that your TV sounds like it's running a small power plant. You went ahead and bought yourself that shiny new 8K screen. Now what? You sit down on the couch, remote in hand, excited to finally see what 33 million pixels look like. You open YouTube, you search 8K video, and what do you get? Birds. Specifically, toucans. Tropical birds in slow motion, blinking dramatically. Maybe a time-lapse of Tokyo, or a hyper-saturated clip of waves crashing on a beach. All of it looks nice, but let's be honest, it's demo bait. These aren't real movies or shows. They're basically nature wallpaper with a title. And that's the big problem. There is almost no actual content in 8K. Streaming services? Nope. Netflix doesn't offer 8K. Neither does Disney+, HBO Max, or Hulu. You'd think the tech would arrive after the content ecosystem was ready, right? But no. This was a full-on backwards rollout. Like buying a cassette player in 2025 and then realizing no one makes tapes anymore. Even the tech review channels on YouTube, the ones hyping these TVs, can't find much to show on them. Most videos are shot in 4K, maybe 6K, and then upscaled. What you're seeing isn't native 8K, it's digitally stretched. Like inflating a balloon until it's see-through. And don't even get me started on physical media. Blu-ray discs, still stuck in 4K. Ultra HD? That's a generous label. There is no 8K Blu-ray format, no 8K DVDs, nothing, zero, nada. So what's left? Well, you could record your own content, if you happen to own a cinema-grade 8K camera. But let me burst that bubble too. Filming in 8K isn't just expensive, it's insane. You need cameras that cost tens of thousands of dollars, storage drives that eat data like a starving animal, editing rigs that sound like jet engines when you hit render. And good luck uploading that to the internet. Your Wi-Fi will cry. Streaming 8K isn't just heavy, it's brutal. Even if the servers could handle it, your internet connection probably can't. Most homes can barely keep up with 4K on a bad day. Now imagine trying to stream 8K with HDR on a Sunday night, when 3 other people in your house are already watching Netflix. That's not immersion, that's buffering. And here's the kicker. Even if you find something in 8K, even if it loads, you probably won't notice the difference. According to Warner Brothers, yep, the Warner Brothers, The vast majority of viewers can't tell the difference between 4K and 8K in normal living room conditions. Your brain just doesn't care. Because unless you're watching on a screen the size of your garage door from 2 feet away, your eyes simply can't resolve that level of detail. It's like printing Shakespeare on a grain of rice. Technically impressive? Sure. Useful? Not really. And here's the cruel irony. The few who can spot the difference, tech reviewers, visual effects nerds, cinema buffs, they're the ones shouting the loudest that 8K isn't worth it. They're the ones saying, don't waste your money. This is just another shiny thing. But the industry doesn't stop. It never does. Because when 8K flopped, guess what happened? They started teasing 16K. Yeah, that's a real thing. A cat video in 16K, a toucan in 16K. Because when the lie doesn't sell, you double down and make it louder. But there's one last piece to this mess. One that ties everything together. Not just the resolution hype, but the why behind it all. And it has to do with how companies trick you into wanting things you didn't need yesterday and won't care about tomorrow. Let's get into that. So here we are. We've talked about the overpriced screens, the missing content, the marketing smoke and mirrors, but there's one last piece to this whole 8K puzzle. And it's the most important one. We never needed it. You see, back when full HD hit the market, it actually mattered. You were going from blurry to clear, from standard to cinematic. Watching sports felt faster. Movies looked richer. It was a real leap. And when 4K came around, yeah, that was an upgrade too. Not life-changing, but nice. Everything looked more detailed. It felt next-gen. People could tell. But 8K, that wasn't for you. It wasn't about clarity. It wasn't about realism. It was about keeping the machine running. Because here's how the consumer tech economy works. It doesn't thrive on satisfaction. It survives on insecurity. You're not supposed to feel content with your current TV. You're supposed to think, mine is outdated. You're supposed to walk through the electronics store, glance at a model that curves or flips or boasts a higher number, and feel that tiny itch. Maybe I need that. And if you don't feel it, they'll manufacture the itch for you. Think about it. Every year there's a new something. Curved screens, 3D TVs, smart everything. Remember 3D TVs? The glasses you lost in the couch cushions? Total flop. And yet, they got their moment. Because every few years, they need a new revolution to sell. A new buzzword, a new number, a new dream. But here's the sickest part. 8K wasn't even about 8K. It was a distraction. While you were squinting at pixels and arguing about whether black levels were pure enough, companies were playing a deeper game. They were using 8K as a decoy to keep you hooked in the cycle. Not so you could see better, but so they could sell better. Remember that time Samsung earned billions in profits, but still had to apologize to investors because it wasn't quite enough? That's the game. Growth isn't optional anymore. It's demanded. If a company makes $6.8 billion, but Wall Street expected $7.7 billion, it's considered a failure. So what do? They manufacture demand. They tell you your current TV isn't good enough, that your perfectly fine 4K screen is old, that your HDMI cable is slow, that your experience isn't immersive unless you upgrade. It's not about satisfying needs, it's about creating new ones. And that's why 8K existed. Not because we needed it, not because we asked for it, but because someone needed to hit a quarterly target. The worst part? It worked. For a little while at least. They sold the illusion. They made tech YouTubers do blind tests. They sponsored headlines. They slapped future-ready labels on boxes. They convinced just enough people to keep the fire burning. And yet today, 8K makes up less than 1% of global TV sales. Most manufacturers have backed away. Even Sony quietly removed the 8K logo from the PlayStation 5 box without telling anyone. Why? Because there are only 3 PS5 games that even support it. And those run at lower frame rates that make the gameplay worse, not better. It's like trying to play basketball in dress shoes. Technically possible, but stupid. Gaming, ironically, is the only frontier where 8K might make sense one day. Maybe. But even that's a stretch. We're still struggling to hit smooth 60 FPS at 1440p, let alone native 8K. Developers are prioritizing lighting, physics, AI, not pixels. Because gameplay, like movies, is about experience, not resolution. So where does that leave us? Right back where we started. With tech that promised the moon but couldn't deliver the map. And honestly, maybe that's a good thing. Because the collapse of 8K taught us something important. We're not as gullible as they think. We questioned. We hesitated. We didn't all rush to upgrade. And for once, the hype machine didn't win. So let's wrap this up. We've seen how 8K TVs were never about giving you better picture quality. They were about selling you something you didn't ask for. The prices were insane. The energy use was worse than a fridge, and the content? Almost non-existent. It wasn't a leap forward in technology. It was a distraction, a marketing trick dressed up as innovation. But now you know, and that's powerful, because the next time some brand flashes next gen or game changer on the box, you'll know to stop and ask, do I really need this? Or am I just being sold another dream? If this video helped you see things a little clearer, ironically, more than any 8K screen ever could, hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share this with someone who's been eyeing that overpriced Ultra TV. And before you go, here's something to think about. Just because a product is newer doesn't mean it's better. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.